and welcome to Let's Get Growing. It's Jo here, the educational gardener from Bulwell Forest Garden in Nottingham. And my diary's telling me that it's nearly midsummer and we're nearly at the longest day. So we're in the middle of June, getting towards the middle of June, but nobody seems to have told the weather that. So yesterday we were all wearing jumpers and woolly hats, and today we've got a lot of thunderstorms. So we're going to start by just having a quick look at our amazing grapevine. So this grapevine, which is growing very nicely in our polytunnel in the Midlands, was planted about 10 years ago. So we've looked after it and we've trained it over the years, and each year we prune it back, and each year we get more and more of these grapes. And you could, if you look a bit closer, you'll see them forming here, and by September, October, we'll just have like masses and masses of black grapes. Isn't that amazing? So let's get on with our pack, let's get cracking, let's get growing. So in today's pack we've got a chive plant, some radish and some mixed baby brassicas. So we've got a selection of mustard, pak choi and kale, dwarf kale I think, mixed in all together. So I'm going to start with the easy one, so that's the chives. So here's some chives that we propagated that had self-seeded in the ground, and we put them into pots, and they look like very little at the moment, but they'll soon spring into action. So what I'm going to do as ever is check my pots and see if it needs repotting. And you can see it hasn't totally filled its pot, but the roots are coming through. So yep, I am going to put this into a bigger pot. So I've got the next size up. I'm going to put about a third, fill it a third. That's enough. Put my pot in the middle, in the centre, my compost around it. Then I'm going to press it down. And what I often do with chives, but I've already done it with these ones, is snip the top off to encourage the plant to spring into life. So put a label on that, and that's it, that's easy. And then we'll go on with the radish. So what I've decided to do is sow this radish in a big pot. So I've got a biggish pot. They're not very deep rooted, so you don't need a massive one. I've got some of our homegrown compost in here. I'm just going to top that up with a little bit of peat-free compost. And then I'm just going to broadcast the seeds. So that's just scattering them along the surface. So we've just got a little pinch of seeds. So I'm right-handed. I put these in my left hand, and I use my finger and my thumb of my right hand just to sort of scatter them. And I want to spread them out. And if I do them nice and thinly, I won't have so much thinning out to do. Okay. And then I'm going to cover them with a bit more of the peat-free compost. Not too much. Do them too deep, and the seeds can rot. And I'm going to press them down and put my label in. And something to show you. These are some I did earlier. So these were from last week, and look, they've germinated already. So we'll see how they go. And finally, we've got the mixed brassicas. So this is a little bit experimental, this, but what I'm aiming to do is to grow these in a pot and just grow them as baby leaves for either salad or stir fry. So again, I've got our homemade compost, topping it up. The main reason why I'm topping it up is it'll keep the weeds in the compost at bay a little bit. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Seeds into my left hand, right hand, which is much more dexterous, got more control over what I'm doing. So the tendency is with a lot of people is just to get the packet, put it in the hand and shove it in, but the seeds will all land in a clump, and that's not really what we want here. Okay, that's my seeds in, and I'm going to cover it again. A little light covering because the seeds aren't massive. Press it down, put my label in, and then I'll be watering these seeds with a fine rose on the end of my watering can, so I'm not washing them out. And also what I can show you is some I did earlier. So you can see they're coming up. So I think this is the dwarf kale, the purple one. There's going to be all sorts coming up in here, and they're all going to be different colours. So I'm hoping it's going to be quite decorative as well. So that's this week's pack, and I'm just going to have a look at something from a few weeks ago, and this was a failure. It got eaten by slugs. It's the flat leaf parsley. I had another go, I persevered, and this time I've got germination. I haven't got loads and loads of plants, but that's fine. So what I need to do now is these plants have got their true leaves here, so they're ready for pricking out. So I don't want hundreds of these plants anyway. Or well, you wouldn't if you were at home, you'd just want a few. So I'm going to put them into small pots. I'm going to prick them out. So have I got a dibber? No, I'll use my finger. Or I'll use the plant label actually. So we're going to, this is the hardest bit, getting them out without damaging the root system. So I'm going to unearth them. I've got two there, so I'm just going to pop them on individually, holding them by the leaves, and that's the delicate root system here. I'm going to get my pot, hold the plant in the middle by its leaves and put the compost in around it. And then I'm going to press it down and repeat with all my other plants. Okay, I think you get the idea now. And the more you do this, the more you practice it, the easier it gets and the quicker you get. And it's also, I think, an incredibly therapeutic exercise. So that's this week's pack. I also wanted to show you what I did with my coriander. So we sowed some coriander seeds, and I think we put about 5 seeds in each pot. And I had 5 pots that were quite healthy. So what I've decided to do with these is to transplant the whole pot into a bigger pot, and they don't like being disturbed, so I did that very carefully and lifted the whole pot out, and they seem to be doing well and responding quite well, and they haven't been eaten yet, so that's good. So we'll just have a look at some of the plants outside. So these are some of our plants from previous packs. So just wanted to show you this was one of last year's chive plants. So it's done its thing, it's flowered, it was very beautiful. And what it's doing now is forming seeds. And the seeds aren't quite ready, but I would leave them longer, and then you'll know when they're ready because they turn into black seeds. And you need to sow anything in the onion family fresh as soon as you've harvested it. So if you did want to make more plants, that would be how you would do it for free. So another thing I want to show you is the potatoes in a pot. So they're doing okay, but if we look closely, we'll notice that they are actually flowering. So these were the Charlottes, I think. So when potato plants flower, that's a really good time to water them, and also to apply a liquid feed. So you'd water them first and then apply feed after, diluted feed afterwards, so you're not burning the roots. So now if they're flowering, it's a perfect time to do that because it'll help the potatoes under the ground to swell up. I would like to have shown you the broad bean plants, but somebody's eaten them, and thankfully it wasn't a pest. It probably was one of our volunteers, so that's fine. But they did really, really well. And finally, the other thing I wanted to show you was the pots. I know we've had a lot of response on social media, on our Let's Get Growing page, Facebook page, about this plant, Sweet Rocket, which was a lot of people are really delighted with how their Sweet Rocket is one of my favourite plants, and it's a fact, you can tell it's a fantastic wildlife plant. So well worth growing. And this pot will also have lots of other things of interest because I put four of the plants that you're given into one pot, so there'll be continuing interest going on with this pot. So I think that's it for this week. So thanks very much for watching, and happy growing.